this meeting to order right now. Thank you. Is that okay? So, in accordance with the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, please note that video and audio of this meeting is being recorded and may be shown live on both local access cable television and on the City of Somerville website, and it will be available for further review. And I will now like to call this meeting to order with a moment of silence and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent, will you call the roll, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Dr. Phillips?
Present.
Ms. Krepshin?
Present.
President McLaughlin? Mayor Curtatone?
Present.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Ms. Barish?
Here.
Ms. Patone?
Here.
Dr. Ackman?
Present.
Ms. Norman?
Here.
We have a full body tonight.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to, this is from John Long. Look at that, got snuck in there. No, I just want to thank you. Welcome to our many guests, and forgive me if I cough into the microphone because I'm not feeling well. Especially to all of our paraprofessionals who are here tonight. And a welcome to our new members, Sarah Phillips from Ward 3, and Eleanor Barish from Ward 6. And Matt McLaughlin is this year's City Council President, so he will be joining us. I think Matt and the mayor are the only two who are graduates of the Somerville school system, and so we very much appreciate those perspectives. And wow, it's a big crowd. Welcome to all of you. Let there be no doubt that the Somerville School Committee knows and values the important services paraprofessionals provide to our students. We are not looking to fight with the people we work with and respect. Contracts are negotiated to identify and understand important workplace issues and possible solutions for both entities. While progress has been made on several key points, there's still work to be done, and before the winter break, the school committee filed for mediation. Mediation is a way to help keep the process moving forward and demonstrates, in my opinion, a commitment to the process. And we have 2 scheduled negotiating dates in February, and we do look forward to continuing this agreement. So I just wanted to give a little update. That's what's changed since the last time we were here. And now, Kat, item number 2, report of student representatives.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. It's been quite a month so far, so I'm happy to be back. We started our basketball season, and so far we won 2 games this Friday. The girls did. So good job to them. I'm sure the boys are doing good too. But yeah. The midterms are coming up, so you guys know I'm very stressed, but I think that's normal. I'm a junior, so hopefully we'll do good, stay on our studies. But I did have something a bit more serious to report today. I'm sure a lot of you know that there was an incident last week concerning a student and a security guard at Somerville High, and there were lots of feelings associated with that. I did talk to a couple of my peers, and a lot of people are feeling that it wasn't handled correctly. There had been tensions with the security guards since last year. People in the BSU specifically have been talking about it as well. And Longambina did put out an announcement the day following, and there was a meeting afterwards on that same day. And the general feeling was that people aren't feeling protected by the security guards. This has been recurrent since last year, as I mentioned. And people don't feel as if the situation was handled correctly, like I said. I heard that the situation was escalated, but not to go too much into that. Just the students did feel like they were dismissed, and there was also mentioned that they talked about like the diversity of the security guards. A lot of them feel as if they're like very much the same demographic, like older Caucasian men, and they also felt as though that was dismissed. This is all coming from a student perspective. These were the general notions that I got from that. Also, the meeting that occurred on that Friday was not allowed to be recorded. Lagambina did not allow for it to be recorded, but people did take notes. This is what I heard. And yeah, that was basically the general feel of that incident. Hopefully that we can work to address this properly. It was a bit concerning, in my opinion, but yeah, I think that's what we have for now.
Superintendent, do you want to add
Madam
something?
Chair. So first of all, I appreciate you bringing that up, Kat, because I know for a lot of the students and adults, it was really upsetting. I did speak with Principal Lagambina today. I know that there's a group of teachers that we're working with, and our hope is over the next couple of weeks to be able to really understand better what the students were saying that their concerns were, and then to be able to address them. So I do appreciate it, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks we can work through it.
Dr. Ackman?
Kat, I have a question, and this may be too broad for this setting, but do you feel in your now 2.5 years at Somerville High that the general cultural competency of the staff you deal with has like increased, decreased, remained the same? Does that make sense?
So I think that generally people appreciate the staff for the most part. I think it's the bigger issue that people are bringing up to me is the security guards. I know that's been addressed multiple times within the BSU that I'm also a part of, and they are also working to see how they can best address this, but I think the issue is more within security guards, and I haven't seen too much change since last year specifically. It seems like the same patterns. A lot of people feel like they're almost accustomed to this, to there being racial conflicts between the student body and the security guards.
Are there any other questions? Kat, do you have anything more on your report? Well, I just want to take this moment that if you did not get to see our amazing student rep perform in was it November, December in the Heights, you missed a performance of a lifetime. And it just amazes me. Your leadership, your participation in all these other committees, you're an athlete, you're an actor, you're a singer. It's nice to see that you're taking full advantage of all the opportunities at the high school, and I love that you come and bring information back to us in such thoughtful and mature ways. I actually had a request of you for next time is, with the building being in flux and it's the senior year, if there's any sense from seniors, if there's traditions or things that we may not be able to do because of the change of the building, that there might be other alternatives they would be interested in, if you could ask around and get back to us, if there's anything that we can do to support that, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely write that down. I appreciate that. It was a great experience, the musical. I also did want to bring up, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Mr. C was there too.
And our teachers are also fine performers. Mr. C, there you go.
I also did want to bring up the inauguration last week, which went really well.
Yes.
I was happy to see everyone up there. It was really a nice inauguration. I just wanted to bring up that happened, and it was really good.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing such musical joy to an evening of many speeches. So we welcome those musical interludes. Mr. Green?
Yeah, thanks. Through you. I've done this during new business, but I have a suspicion we may be here a while, and I don't know if our student rep will be here when new business comes up, so I wanted to say this now. I'd heard similar reports over the weekend from students. The superintendent and I had a conversation this morning about it, and in light of that conversation, I would love it if in an upcoming meeting, the discussions we had about changes that were implemented at Somerville High in response to prior complaints, if that could be made, written out, made public in a session, so we can start the process of making sure that our students actually know what happens in response to complain, so we can actually have some greater degree of transparency, both in this body and for our student population.
Thank you for that, Mr. Green. Any other questions? Okay. I don't know if you have midterms tomorrow. You're welcome to stay. If you need to go, we always appreciate whatever time we can have with you. Okay. The next item of business is approval of minutes. We are the November.
So moved.
Second?
Hold on, people. I was going to say that the November 18th, they're not ready, so we are only approving the November 4th minutes. Mr. Green, is there a motion?
I move to approve the November 4th minutes.
Second?
There is a motion by Mr. Green, rapidly seconded by Dr. Ackman. Is there any discussion of the November 4th minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes are approved. Our next item of business is public comment. And per our policy, I have a whole little thing I need to read, which is, I'm sorry, I am a little on the feverish side. Here we go. Bear with me with this speech, but it's in our policies that I need to read it. So, welcome and thank you to those who have signed up for public comment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. However, the chair may limit comments to 2 minutes based on the number of individuals signed up. It will definitely be a 2-minute limit tonight. And Mr. Mazza will give you the 30-second flash. Remarks should be respectful, professional, and addressed through the chair. If a speaker persists in improper remarks, the chair may terminate that individual's right to continue. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between residents and the committee. Members of the committee will not reply to public comment in the course of the meeting, though individual members may follow up, and items from public comment may be taken up in future meetings. The school committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any member of the school committee in public session. Individuals may address topics on the agenda or items within the school committee's scope of responsibilities, such as the district budget, goals and policies, or the role of the superintendent. And the public is encouraged to submit comments in writing for inclusion. If we have a very full night, and I'm going to do something very unusual, which is normally we limit it to 20 minutes. We have 40 people signed up. I am going to allow everyone to speak. It's going to be 2 minutes. Bonus points if you can keep it shorter. Applause will keep us here longer, and I would like to, how I'm going to do it is read off probably 3 or 4 names, and then if you could come to the mic, and so that we can have a rapid succession. Great. So the first one, and when you come to the mic, say your name and your address, please. Okay. Is Ashley Adderton, and then it looks like Jim Kaplan, and then Mary Jo Cannell, and then Elaine Corey. Hi, welcome. Oh.
You ready?
Again. No, you should be on now.
All right. Hi,
Great.
my name is Ashley Addington. I'm a Somerville resident. I live at 49 Church Street, and I have a first grader in Argenziano, and a future either potential Smile kid at some point or kindergartner. I would be wearing red, but as a redhead, I own no red, so I am here with my voice of support. I also have both my kids with me, so we came in to sign in first. I have seen for now a year and a half the impact that paraprofessionals have in the classroom. I have seen 24 kids in my daughter's kindergarten class, and the availability and comfort and helpfulness that the paraprofessional provided was crucial to me feeling okay about kindergarten in Somerville. I've seen the same thing in first grade. I am so glad to hear that you guys are going into a process that will hopefully make everyone happy. We call them helper teachers in my house, and they truly are. They help with everything, and so there are some really great, talented paraprofessionals here, and I want to make sure that you guys work to keep them. Thank you.
Next up is Jim Kaplan.
My name is Jim Kaplan. I'm resident at 48 Liberty Avenue in Ward 6. I want to make 2 points. Firstly, in the economy that we're in, the remedy for very, very distended inequity of wealth and income is best addressed not by percentage increases, but by flat rate increases. And if it's possible to add on 2 $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to the salaries at the upper end, it ought to be possible to add the same flat rate amount at the lower end. That's how you diminish differentials. If it pinches on the budget, the place to cut it is at the top end, not at the bottom end. Second point is about communications, also how to narrow differentials on communications. Until a couple weeks ago, there was face-to-face connection between the attorney and his team, or her team, and the union and that team. I understand from what you said that now there's a mediator in between them going in this direction, separating out farther the connection between the parties. It seems to me that the proper direction ought to be to narrow the distance by encouraging the school committee members to sit in on the negotiations, because state law under the Massachusetts ed reform system designates that it's the school committee, not the superintendent, the school committee that's responsible for labor negotiations. So it would be good if all were sitting in on the bargaining, not putting a mediator to make it farther and farther apart, but closer and closer together. Just those 2 points. Thank you.
Mary Jo Conley, Elaine Corey, Sean Fallon, and then Kristen Strezzo.
Before you? Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry. First, if you want. Hi, sorry. Sorry, hi.
I'm sorry.
Okay, the clock starts now. I'm Mary Jo Conley, live at 36 Marshall Street. I'm the parent of 2 children, one of whom graduated from the high school in 2016, and another is still in your care at the Somerville High School. And I want to also make 2 points, although 2 different points than what Jim made. We have been very, very happy with our children's education, first at East Somerville Community School and then at the high school. There are many things we value, but probably at the top of the list is how hard the school committee administrators and staff work to create a culture of respect for all, inclusion, and compassion. This matters as much to us as strong academics. Fairness, it matters a lot. That's why, honestly, I'm shocked that it's even a question as to whether our Somerville paraprofessionals, who are so vital to our children's education and the successful functioning of our schools, deserve to have their demands for more money and more respect met, as well as continuous employment. What message are we sending our students when we devalue the contributions of the paraprofessionals they work with every day? When we refuse to pay them a living wage or ensure that they don't have to sit by the mailbox during the summer wondering whether they have a job? I believe this message is profoundly at odds with the values of the Somerville Public Schools and what we hope we are teaching our children. Also with the city's values. More than 20 years ago, Somerville was one of the first cities in the U.S. to enact a living wage ordinance. And the reason for this was to assure that we as citizens were not complicit in keeping people in poverty who are working for companies we contract with. I was carrying my first child then. Just knowing that it's the city council's increased it since then.
Much.
As a parent, I'll do what I have to make sure that this is funded.
Okay. Sean Ballin, Kristen Strezzo, and then Vivian Abraham.
Elaine Corey, 101 Beacon Street, and I am here to talk about money and value. $20,608, which is what we pay annually for full-time starting paraprofessionals, is below the federal poverty level for a family of 3. That is unconscionable. If we value our children, we should value those who work with them, those who teach them every day to care for one another, because what they do is really valuable. I looked in the budget book to see what Somerville does value. I studied several departments, all of which do important things, but few of which do things as important as caring for and teaching and loving our children. For instance, For the same amount we pay 7 planners, we could pay 21 paraprofessionals at the higher rate the union is asking. I'm not saying that the jobs are equivalent, but I am saying that the one is not 3 times more valuable than the other. I am saying that our priorities are out of whack. Now, I know that Somerville is just doing what other districts do by undervaluing teachers and paraprofessionals, but Somerville can do better than that. Don't leave this to the lawyers. Tell them you want us to lead the way and announce with our money that we value our children and their educators.
Sean Ballin. Hi.
I have a...
Can you state your name and
sorry.
your address, please? Thank you.
Yes, my name is Sean Balon. I live at 12 Watson Street in Teal Square. I have one child who's a 3rd grader now at the Kennedy. I want to tell you that my experience with the Somerville school system has been fantastic. Ms. Skipper, thank you very much. I think it comes from the top. I think the district-wide administration has been fantastic. I think my actual school's administration has been fantastic. And my experience with my daughter's teachers have been fantastic. That being said, and I'm not a union guy, so sorry union folks, I think it's embarrassing the level of lack of income that our paras are making. And I encourage you to go to school pickup or drop off and see paras working with kids who are hard. These are hard kids. I can say that, I mean, they're great kids, but they're not easy. And they're not easy to connect with. And the paras have this ability to connect with these kids in ways that I don't get. Like, I'm glad you're there. I don't know how you do it. I'm glad you're there. And I thank you, and I kind of did some quick research on how much it would cost, and yeah, it's not inexpensive to give the raise. You know, and I would say to the folks that we vote in, you know, it's your job to make those hard decisions and find it. I would say that, you know, I don't think Somerville is at the average for paras in this state. I did some quick research, and it looked like paras are making like $2 to $3 grand more on an average, which puts us in the bottom 50 percentile. And there are some horrible school districts out there, no offense. And this is not one, and I just implore you to look deeper. So,
Okay, Kristen Strezzo, Vivian Abraham, Roberta Brower, and then Rami Bridge.
Hello, my name is Kristen Strezzo. I'm a parent at the Brown.
Can you also state your address, please?
My address is 333 Great River Road, Ward 1.
Thank you.
I stand with the paras and their fight for a living wage. I'm here to leave with you what I've witnessed as a parent in the special ed department in the school system. It's hard work from what I've witnessed, and their wages don't reflect that. Paras are often bitten, they are kicked, they are shoved to the ground. I've seen the teeth marks. They are sometimes understaffed in the classrooms. It is a hard job, and Somerville should be supporting paras in every step of the way. Thank you.
Vivian Abraham. Oh. Hi.
Hi, my name is Vivian Abraham. I live at 5 Glenwood Road in Somerville. My son has been in the Somerville Public Schools for 10 years, mostly at the Healy School. He has special needs that cannot be met by a lone teacher in a classroom of 20 students without support. And the paraprofessionals in Somerville have made his education possible in support roles, as one-on-ones in his classroom, and as mentors. They have given him patience and love and highly skilled support. Getting my son to stay on task throughout the day is not easy. I will say he's not a biter, thank goodness, but there are others that are. And it's a very difficult and challenging job. And the amount of wages that paraprofessionals are paid for these services in Somerville is shockingly low. They deserve to make a wage that allows them to live in our amazing city of Somerville, for their families to gain the benefits of our city and support system, just as my family has, thanks to their hard work. I just want to, I don't know if Jeff Lee is here, but I want to, because she's probably not, because she's like 9 months pregnant, but she came from Haiti after the earthquake. She's a math teacher. I mean, she's a highly skilled person. She came into the system and worked as a paraprofessional. I never knew how much she made. I'm incredibly embarrassed because she gave my son so much. And I really want to thank her. Thank you.
We have Roberta Bauer, Rami Bridge, and then Ryan Dunn.
Hi, I'm Roberta Bauer. I live at 58 Berkeley Street. I'm the proud grandmother of 2 Somerville school students, and I served on the school committee from 1998 till 2007. I realize this is the first meeting for some of you, and this is kind of a trial by fire. And one of the most difficult things that I know I faced on the school committee was figuring out how to prioritize the limited funds. So I know this isn't easy, but I also think that this is very important. Over the years, I know that we have expected much more professionalism from the paraprofessionals. The degree of credentialing has gone up, and they have become more professional. And they are very important to the students in the classroom, and I can see by the turnout here that they're really, really important to the teachers in the classroom, and they deserve to be compensated. I can't imagine spending all day with 20 or more kids, even if there's another adult in the classroom. These people are incredible. And after that, I don't know how some of them have time to get a second job or to take care of their families, but they do. The other thing I just want to mention, I know one of the issues is tenure. We give our teachers tenure. I think it would actually help the school department if they knew every year who was coming back, to not have to send out these notices and invite people back. But let's give everybody the security of knowing that after a certain number of years, the staff is going to be consistent. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you'll consider things very carefully.
We now have Rami Bridge, Ryan Dunn, and then Olo Bayul. I hope I got that close. Correct me when you come to this podium, please. I'm terrible with names.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rami Bridge. I live on 9 Wilton Street, and I'm the president of Somerville Teachers Association. I am so honored and proud to represent such a dedicated and passionate group of educators. The educators behind me embody the values that Somerville stands for, particularly inclusivity and equity. I have chosen to live, work, and raise my family in Somerville because of these values. It is these very values that we are here fighting for. Somerville is a changing community, and I truly believe we are at a crossroads. This is a moment for us to put action behind our rhetoric. The STA is doing just that. I ran with a group of like-minded educators on a campaign to build a member-driven union, enforce rights for our members, and promote justice in our community. The educators of Somerville elected me, and I take that responsibility very seriously. The STA is here today to fight for the same values that the community of Somerville ascribes to. Our paraprofessionals implement the inclusive and equitable practices in our classrooms that we brag about. They also deserve to be included in our community, not priced out by virtue of low pay in a city where cost of living is rising so dramatically. Equity means historically marginalized groups get what they need to move towards a more balanced playing field with those who are privileged. Our paraprofessionals clearly need more. You have a professed interest in giving them opportunities to continue to grow and expand as educators. If we want to make that a reality, then we need to change their context. It is unrealistic to ask paraprofessionals who are paid so little that they have to work 2 and 3 jobs to also go back to school. It doesn't matter how much money is put into tuition reimbursement. We have heard a lot of talk from school committee about percentages. I was a middle school math teacher in Somerville for 7 years, and I know a thing or two about percentages. A para with a salary of $20,680 would see about a $1,000 raise this year with your most recent proposal, which was for a 5% salary increase. Maybe you believe that that is good enough. I don't think so. Your lawyer in negotiations referred to this as, quote, a market adjustment. We are not seeking a market adjustment, but a fundamental change in the way we pay, respect, and value paraprofessionals. This is an issue of equity. The superintendent's phrase for the year has been equity in action. If you really want to address this issue, we should be talking about actual salary as opposed to percentages. A big percentage of a small number is still a small number. When I started at the West Somerville 8 years ago, I met Francesca. She is a dedicated, hardworking paraprofessional, and she has been in this district for over 2 decades. She is fantastic with the students, and to my eye, she was indistinguishable from the special educator as she offered student support.
Rami,
When I found out what her salary is, I was shocked. When I earned my professional teacher status and learned that every year she has to wait to be invited back, I was embarrassed. I am here to fight for Francesca and all the other paraprofessionals with similar stories. I hope that you decide to fight with us instead of fight against us, because this is an opportunity to put equity into
Ryan
action.
Dunn is up. And then Rebecca Brown. I already have Ryan Dunn. You need to speak. Are you Ryan Dunn?
Madam Chair, I am Ryan Dunn. You did
Great.
pronounce that correctly.
Okay. Thank you.
I live on Alpine Street, and I'm proud to work for the Massachusetts Teachers Association. I have opportunity to work with fine education professionals such as you have here tonight and such as you see in our schools every day. This one is a student at the Winter Hill School, which is just a remarkable place, just as the gentleman standing right there. I think it's important that we note that all of the members of the school committee here should be proud of the schools that we have. Matt should be proud too. And you in particular, Mr. Mayor, should be very proud because I know that you've been very adamant about supporting the schools the entire time that you've been in office. I want to say that the schools here are remarkable. Our experience as a family in the schools has been remarkable. But the reality of our system of public education now is that there's always a demand for greater improvement, and there's always a demand for more progress. There is absolutely no way that this one, after a year and a half in the Somerville Public Schools, could make the kind of progress that she has as a learner and as a member of her school community in a classroom that doesn't have a full-time para. For all of our classrooms that are teaching very young learners, and for all of our classrooms that have special education students, we need full-time paras, and we need skilled, experienced paras. And what we're talking about here today is establishing a contract that will allow us to retain skilled, experienced paras. If you pay the least and you don't have any job security, you're not going to be able to retain those people. Thank you.
Olo Bayou, Rebecca Brown, Sarah Marks, and then Lena Flannery.
Olo Bayul, 7 Montrose Street. I've been in Somerville for 24 years now. I've been to the Potter House, the Brown, the Kennedy, and I'm also a graduate of Somerville High School, class of 2007. And I'm now a second grade teacher here at the Kennedy. I'm in love with Somerville, and I think as the mayor says, I think this is the best Somerville's ever been. I admire the progressive values that the city holds, but unfortunately, it seems like the progressive values stops when it comes to the wages of the paraprofessionals in the city, which is pretty outrageous. So I do think that it is time to give them the salary that they deserve. And I can't say more as a teacher. I see what paraprofessionals do every single day. And as a teacher, you have all the paraprofessionals in the room, you have my solidarity, my thanks, and my gratitude. And as a free Tibet activist, I can't leave the mic without the chance. So what do we want? When do we want it?
Now. Rebecca Brown. I'm going to ask you, as I call out 3 or 4 names for you to line up behind, and so we can keep the meeting going efficiently and be able to hear from everyone. So Rebecca Brown, Sarah Marks, Lena Flannery, and then Annie Shapira.
Hi. Okay. My name is Rebecca Brown. I live at 5 Maxwell's Green. I am a resident of Somerville, a parent of a Somerville school student, and I am a paraprofessional. I am here because I am one of the lucky ones. Many of my colleagues are not here tonight, not because they do not care enough to be here, but because they are working their second or third job, or they cannot speak in front of the school board because they cannot afford to live in Somerville. Why? Because we are not paid a living wage. We are paraprofessionals. We are not stay-at-home parents looking to get out of the house. We are not room moms and dads that just come in for a few hours to make copies for the teachers. Many of my colleagues have degrees or are working toward their advanced degrees. They are using their jobs as a paraprofessional as a stepping stone to become teachers, counselors, social workers, or even administrators. Those of us without degrees do this because we love children and we want the next generation to have the best. Every single one of us deserve the respect of a living wage. Our jobs are not easy. We have been bitten, hit, scratched, kicked, punched, pinched, and pushed. We change diapers of students that outweigh us by 50 pounds. We take the time to learn new ways to communicate and help our students and our teachers. We love our jobs or we would not be here. We should not have to work for 15 years before it is decided that maybe we're good enough for keeping around. Finally, I would like to thank the teachers and the parents and community members and kids that came here to support us, and to thank those that could not come but still help us behind the scenes. Thank you.
Sarah Marks.
Hi, my name is Sarah Marks. I live at 11 Bowdoin Street. I have a kindergartner at the Argenziano School and another one coming up in a couple of years. I am also an MTA member. I teach secondary history and English in the Newton Public Schools. I want to say a few things. First, a lot of people talking about the wonderful things that paras do have been talking from the perspective of them working with young children, but I know from being a secondary teacher that paras are crucial for being able to implement individualized education plans and follow the law, comply with those legal documents. So I just wanted to make sure that was heard. I've lived in Somerville for over 10 years. When my husband and I decided to grow our family, we thought, where should we settle? We're a teacher and a software engineer. We're relatively portable in terms of our careers. Neither of us is from the Northeast. And we really had lots of serious discussions. We did research, and we decided we were going to settle in Somerville and make this our forever home. With our kids going through the public schools, my kids could go to school in Newton, and we've definitively chosen that that is not the right path for us. And one of the reasons why we have made this decision is what other people were saying, because of the values that are coming from the public institutions here in our city. And I'm just really saddened to see this gap in the values and the actions, and I hope something will be done right away. I've seen the city change even in my just decade living here. There's been lots of development at Assembly Row, luxury condos. I mean, I just kind of feel like, what's the big deal if that development can't be spread around to our public employees? And I personally don't feel like a good person at all if I'm going to take advantage of the wonderful things this city has to offer and the wonderful educational experiences my kids will have on the backs of a segment of our educational workforce that just makes absolutely no sense.
And the next speaker is Lena
Thank
Flannery.
you.
Hi, my name's Lena Flannery. I'm at 13 Wilson Ave, and I'm the mom of a kindergartner at Brown. And wow, I am teary. I cannot believe it is $25,000 is all they're asking for. I thought it was a typo. Seriously, it's not much. Pay them. Move on. I was shocked. Also, shocked when I found out 24 kids. I love his teacher. She's over here. She's amazing. But I thought, wow, 24 kids alone? How are you going to do this? And then thankfully, I met her para, who's also over here, who is equally amazing. And together, they can do it. And they have 24 kids, and they do a great job. And it just makes me sad to think that the pay is so low. It's shameful. Please make this right. Please just get on with it. You have other things to do.
We have Anna Shapiro, Tessa Bridge, and then Carrie Howard. Shapiro? Okay.
Yes, you did pronounce that correctly. My name is Annie Shapiro. I live at 30 Burnside Avenue here in Somerville. I am a library aide at the Brown School, and I'm here in solidarity with my colleagues in the classrooms. Since the Brown School is very small, I have gotten a sense of how integral our paraprofessionals are to our school community. I see how hard they work to support the children when they come up to the library for specialists. I see how much the children depend on them and love them. They do so much to support our classrooms, and I think that we should give them our support in return because we all want what's best for the students. Thank you.
Next is Tessa Bridge, and then Carrie Howard, then Evan Seichik.
Hi. My name is Tessa Bridge. I live on Wilton Street. I am the coordinator of an equity and racial justice program in Cambridge Public Schools. I have 2 future SPS students right over there. My entire career has been in education. I've worked in several districts, and I really see Somerville Public Schools as optimally positioned to lead the way on many issues for our students, families, teachers, and in this case, paraprofessionals. That's a huge part of the reason why my family has chosen to be here is for the schools. Somerville has named equity as a central value of our schools and our city. Equity means making sure that people who have been historically marginalized get what they need. Equity is at the heart of the fight for respectful pay for paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessional workforce is comprised of many more women of color than our teaching force. They have also been disadvantaged by years of being underpaid. If we are truly centering equity in our decisions, then we must right this wrong and pay them the wage that they deserve. Furthermore, making decisions centered on equity means that you center the voices of those most impacted. In this situation, the paras are certainly the most impacted, and you have marginalized their voices at every turn. It is your responsibility as our elected leaders to center their lived experiences and needs in your decisions. What have you done to hear from them directly? If we are serious about equity, it is not enough to just talk about it. We must proactively live our values and make every decision with an equity lens. I am asking you to be leaders and to use the privilege of your position to champion the values you say you hold. Pay these hardworking educators the living wage that they deserve. Thank you.
All right. We have speaker number 17 is Carrie Howard, then Evan Seichik, Liam Easton Calabria, and then we will be at the halfway point with Catherine Anderson.
Thank you. My name is Carrie Howard. I'm a Somerville resident. I live at 157 Summer Street. I've been trying to follow along with the contract process, and I've heard the articulate and compelling arguments of educators, families, and members of the community in defense of paras' right to a fair contract. I agree on all fronts that the money we spend on our schools should be going to those who are directly involved with the care of our children day in and day out, that paras are a highly skilled, essential part of the education workforce, and that everyone is deserving of a living wage. In spite of all of these compelling and some might say common sense reasons to give paras a fair contract, I'm still witnessing them fight tooth and nail for a meager $25,000 starting salary and job security after 4 years. I also know that recently school committee members raised their own concerns that the % salary increase paras were asking for is too high. In trying to do my own research to understand the complexities of these processes, I came across the public SPS budget documents and saw that in FY19, school committee board members each received a 41.7% salary increase. Holding these two truths together, it raises questions in my mind about how much we are all operating in good faith with regards to negotiations for paras. I still have hope, though, that Somerville Schools knows it cannot retain skilled and talented people when it does not invest in them. If Somerville is truly committed to providing high-quality, equitable education to our community, as it says it is, it needs to take very seriously the value it places on its educators. And last thing I'll say is honestly, because comments are only open to Somerville residents, that means there are a lot of dedicated paras here in this room who are not able to contribute to this conversation, and I think that that's really unfortunate. Because this is clearly a passionate and articulate group, and they deserve to have a voice in the fight for their own futures. I'd like to actually make a targeted request tonight that all public school workers who are dedicating their time
is
and
up,
energy
and the next
tonight
speaker is
to
Evan
be allowed to speak. Can you please let them speak?
No. What? Evan, come up to the speak.
You know, on that same subject, I wonder if the members of this committee know how much it costs to rent a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Somerville. But I can tell you it costs a lot more than you can pay on a $20,000 salary or even a $25,000 salary. And you know what? Then to say that you have to be a Somerville resident to speak in front of this committee is deeply cynical. Right. And you know, I have to say that I go to a lot of city council meetings and I see out-of-town developers and big landlords who are always able to give their address in Wellesley and address the various bodies of this town. And I think that it's completely absurd that we were able to make various exceptions to extend the time and so on, but not to make this one. I don't accept at all that that was not an option for tonight. And you know, it's just extremely frustrating to me as a Somerville resident because, you know, we've heard a lot about the values, the progressive values of this city, but they don't exist on a piece of paper in City Hall or in the minds of our elected representatives. They exist in the community here, right? The people who live here, the people who work here. And that community, those values, they demand justice, right? They demand equity. And I have to say, the idea that Somerville parents would get a letter implying that the paras in their schools are asking for an unreasonable percentage increase without even mentioning the dollar value in question, which would be shocking to all Somerville parents, I tell you. So it's not surprising to me to feel like this committee doesn't want to hear from Somerville paras, because if they did, those paras would have a contract already.
Our next speaker is Liam Easton, Calabria, and then Catherine Anderson, Jess Smith, and then Bruce Kassengoy. Thank you.
Hello all. My name is Liam Easton Calabria. I'm an emergency room technician, a member of
You also say
Socialist.
where you live, your address, please.
25 Knapp Street.
Thank you.
I'm an emergency room technician, a member of Socialist Alternative, and a resident of Somerville. These paraprofessional educators are essential actors in the classroom and incredibly important for our children's education. As I said at last month's committee meeting, paraprofessionals in Somerville public schools aren't making nearly enough money to live on. A starting salary of $20,000 a year, which makes out to be about $10 an hour, makes an incredibly hard life here in the Boston area. The housing crisis in this city makes paying rent difficult for people making much more than $20,000 a year. Many paras are also burdened by the cost of driving and public transport, with many having longer and longer commutes from further out of the city where rent is more affordable. As an ER technician, I want to come in on the medical realities of what living on $20,000 a year looks like. Such a low paraprofessional salary has its impacts on health. As an ER technician in a busy emergency room, I can tell you that we see traumas, we see car accidents, but what we see most of, what we see day in and day out, are very sick working people who have put off seeing a doctor because they do not have the financial resources or the time to do so. Many patients end up in the ER for illnesses that are preventable and treatable by primary care. It could be an untreated cold that develops into serious pneumonia, or someone who ignores a fever because they have to work their second or third job. We see very sick patients for these reasons every day, even patients with good health insurance. The fact that Somerville paraprofessionals have such a low salary and work multiple jobs puts them in that high-risk demographic. It puts them at risk of ending up in an emergency room because they didn't have the time to see the doctor.
Your time is up, and our next speaker is Catherine Anderson.
Deductible. Our demand for $25,000 starting salary and for increased job security would be a lifeline
Your time is up.
Professionals in these serious circumstances.
And our next speaker is Catherine Anderson.
We know these demands will take a fight to win. We need to stay organized and continue to mobilize community members, parents, other union members, and workers across the city. I look forward to continuing this fight together.
I've made an exception to let everyone speak, but if we... I've made an exception to let everyone speak. If we cannot adhere to the 2 minutes, we will stop, okay? So I'm trying to work with you. Please work with me, too, on the 2-minute limit. Thank you. Catherine Anderson?
Hi, my name is Catherine Anderson. I live at 28 Warren Ave, number 5. I'm a special education teacher at the Brown Middle School in Chelsea, and I'm the VP of the Chelsea Teachers Union out there. I just want to mention the Chelsea School Committee meetings are open to all, and I know they will be full later this year because we have a comparable pay scale, unfortunately. I appreciate the school committee sentiment that they don't want to fight the people that they work with. However, I assure you that every paraprofessional making $20,000 a year is in a fight every day to keep their head above water financially. This year at summer school, the para assigned to my classroom grabbed a few hours of sleep between her jobs and still managed to come to school and be gentle, kind, and supportive for the students with disabilities in our classroom. Paras are overwhelmingly assigned to support English language learner and special education students. They're there for our most vulnerable students, and we should not make them the most vulnerable employees in our schools. If we are truly dedicated to equity, this is an easy and clear stance to take. It's shameful that it's taken this long to get them to $25,000. I would not be able to afford to stay in my apartment if I was being paid that. And it's so easy to just raise this to what they deserve. Thank you.
Our next speaker, we are now at the halfway mark. It's Jess Smith, then Bruce Castanguay, Jacob Kramer, and then Emma Rose Boretzkowski.
Hi, I'm Jess Smith. I live at 114 Rogers Ave in Ball Square. I am a renter. I've only lived here for like 5 years. I don't have a kid in school. I didn't go to Somerville Public Schools. I'm not a teacher, but I get to talk at this meeting. And so I'm going to say a few things on behalf of some really great paras that I met this weekend. They're obviously really hardworking. There's probably going to be a lot of discussion about them not operating in good faith, but I think sending out an email to all Somerville parents telling them that the paras wanted a 25% pay increase without giving the dollar amount of $20,000 base salary is not operating in good faith. I've been an educator, and I was in my union when I was an educator. I was elected to the bargaining team. I sat across the table from people who would tell me that they needed me to find the money. And what I would tell them is that my job was to teach students, and their job as administrators being paid way, way more than me was to find the money. So do your jobs. Deserve your raise. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bruce Jacob Kramer, and then Emma Rose Boretzkowski, and then Aaron Docker. Doxer?
Hi there, I'm Bruce. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'm a concerned Somerville resident.
Can you state your last name and your address, please?
Yep, Bruce Castanguay. I live at 157 Summer Street.
Thank you.
So my wife, who already spoke tonight, and I are looking to possibly starting a family in this town. We've lived here for 5 years, and obviously education is a huge part of that process and that decision. And I've come to understand what a vital role that paraprofessionals play in the educational success of our children, and they deserve to be paid as such. I prepared a lot of data and statistics because they're just so alarming, but so many people have already covered them today. I think it's important that we stop dealing in a relative comparison and start dealing in absolutes. Like people have said, it costs more than they make in a year to rent a one-bedroom apartment in this city, which also doesn't even account for the fact that you have to come up with first, with last, with security deposit. You're writing a check for 33%, I want to talk about relative, 33% of how much they make in a year. That's insane. I also got an email from the school committee talking about how they're going to provide a pathway, let's see, what does it say? A pathway for permanent job status. But it's my understanding that it takes 15 years before job security kicks in. What is the pathway? If we want our kids to succeed, we have to ensure that the folks responsible for their high-quality education and care are adequately taken care of. A good start is tonight, all of us coming out. We need to keep this momentum up. We need to build community support so this movement can take care of our paras because the school committee seems not to want to. The cruelest twist in this entire negotiation process is that only Somerville residents are allowed to speak at these meetings, and since we've already laid out that they can't afford to live here, it's ridiculous. Let them speak.
Our next speaker is Jacob Kramer, then Emma Rose Borowski.
Let them speak. Why can't they speak? They work in our schools.
Our next speaker is Jacob Kramer.
I agree. They should be allowed to speak. My name is Jacob Kramer. I live at 8 Quincy Street. I'm here in solidarity with the paraprofessionals. In particular, I support their demands for a $25,000 starting salary and job stability. Some of you may know I'm an author. I write books for children, and this work often takes me into the classroom to present. I've visited over 30 schools around the country and someday hope to do this in Somerville. So teachers, PTA, take note. Sometimes during a presentation, a student or two will have trouble focusing. Maybe they will interrupt or start talking on their own. If my quiet coyote doesn't work, it's paraprofessionals who intercede and work with the students through whatever they need to stay engaged. This kind of personal attention is critical for education and growth, and without it, the unfocused student and their peers suffer. Moreover, the rare disruptors are the difficult kids, the kids who sometimes fall through the cracks. The school-to-prison pipeline is real, and we need to disrupt it here. I did an author visit at a juvenile detention facility in Tucson, Arizona. The students there were just as bright and curious and enthusiastic as those I have met at public and private schools around the country, but this was not a school, and it was staffed with another kind of paraprofessional. They're called prison guards, and they're not educators. I was alarmed to hear that a paraprofessional at the high school stopped working in that capacity and took a job as a school security guard, mostly because it paid about $10,000 more. My alarm was compounded when I heard from the student representative here tonight to describe the tension in our own schools between security officers and students. We need to repoint resources and invest in real paraprofessionals, the people who are working closest with the kids who need special attention,
Your
so
time
those
is up.
students don't end up wearing prison uniforms that are far, far too large.
Our next speaker is Emma Rose Borowski, then Aaron Docker, then Ari Daniel, and then Anna Callahan.
Hi, my name is Emma Rose Borzakowski, and I live at 126 Hudson, and I'm outraged. I'm really upset that as a new Somerville resident, I'm able to speak here, but paraprofessionals who have been working here for 10 years aren't allowed to share their thoughts. I'm also outraged on behalf of our students. Our students are not getting the highest quality care that they deserve when we don't pay our paraprofessionals. I'm outraged for our teachers who are working alongside our paraprofessionals and need their support every day in the classroom. And I'm outraged for our paraprofessionals who deserve to be making more than $20,000 a year. I live here in Somerville, and I know how unaffordable it can be. And part of making Somerville affordable is changing our housing market, but part of it is also just paying people enough to live here. This should be a welcoming and inclusive community for all, for our students, for our teachers, and for our paraprofessionals. And I, in my outrage, have some hope that we can start listening to the voices of paraprofessionals and coming to the bargaining table to meet their demands. Thank you.
Aaron Docker, Ari Daniel, Anna Callahan, and then Parrot Sweeney.
Aaron Doxer, 152 Walnut Street.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here feeling very lucky for two reasons. One reason is that I'm a union member, and the second reason is because I live with two paraprofessionals. And living with them is amazing. They're conscientious, they're smart, they're clean, they're good cooks, and they're very tired. Often they come home from school and they just pass out. They just don't have much left. I also feel lucky because the two paraprofessionals that I live with work in places that aren't Somerville, that pay them respectively $31,000 a year as a first-year paraeducator and $40,000 a year as a paraeducator. $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year. And I just want to make a note that when people are not paid enough to live in their jobs, when they're not paid a living wage, they have a number of options in front of them, right? One of them is to quit. One of them is to find a job in a city or a place that actually pays them enough to live. And the third option is to fight, to change their job and to make it better. And I think that all the people in this room, especially the school committee members and all of the Somerville residents, owe a debt of gratitude to the paraeducators that have decided to stand up and fight for what they deserve. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ari Daniel, then Anna Callahan, then Brett Sweeney, and then Peter Phelan.
Ariana Lutzi Jael. I live at 152 Walnut. I'm outraged that I live in a city with a salary for paras that's $20,000. It's ridiculous. I live with two paras who work in Boston and Cambridge public schools in the same house as the previous person. And when they get home, they're exhausted. They take naps for 2 hours or more because they make a living wage that allows them to not worry about having to find another job. And paras in Somerville deserve a job with a livable wage, with job security, and it's absolutely absurd that none of them who don't live in Somerville can speak tonight.
Hi, I'm Anna Callahan. I live at 1051 Broadway. I have lived in Somerville since 2003, and my son is a preschooler at West Somerville Neighborhood School, so thank you for that. He was very excited to come tonight and to see some of his teachers here, and as a kid who is in a classroom of about 18 preschoolers, it's my understanding that Massachusetts state law requires that you have a certain number of teachers for a certain number of students, and I think that you have to have 2 teachers for that many preschoolers. And I was honestly shocked to find out that one of the 2 people teaching him is paid less than $15 an hour, which is really a fight that is happening across the country in places that are far less affluent than Somerville. So I think it's fair to say that Somerville is a relatively affluent city at this point. It is also a relatively progressive city, and that means that we are aware of things like the fact that paraprofessionals are more likely to be people of color than the teaching staff, and that it really is important for us to pay them fairly. I have heard that it actually has been sort of traditional for the Somerville School Board to have the lawyer speak to the unions when that happens. Not sure if that's correct or not, but I also have the understanding that the paraprofessionals and the teachers union do not feel that that is a sign of respect, though you may feel it's a sign of moving forward, the mediation, that to them does not feel that way, and that I hope that you can listen to their side and find a way to work together.
Your time is up. Thank you. Brett Sweeney, Peter Phelan, Leanna Tuller, and then Jessica McMartin.
Hi, I'm Brett Sweeney, and I live at 40 Loudon Ave. I've been a Somerville resident for 7 years now with my husband, Jim. He grew up here. I grew up in Watertown. And I had 2 children that went through that school system, and I was glad to come to Somerville for a refreshing education system. Our son has Down syndrome. He is nonverbal. He still is in diapers at 6 years old. He's also the mayor of the Capuano School. But the paraprofessionals are the ones that I have been working with since my child started with early intervention at 3 years old. He still to this day calls and sees his paraprofessionals at the Capuano every day, and that's the first word out of his iPad is Mr. M, Mrs. K. and all the lovely people at the Capuano. So I should say I'm outraged about how much they're getting paid and at the fact that they have to apply for public assistance in order to live is just a really downshadowing of this town. So what do we want? When do we want it?
Peter Phelan, Leanna Tuller, Jessica McMartin, and then Brendan Caffrey. Brendan.
Hi, my name is Peter Phelan, 133 Walnut Street. I'm not a parent, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a para, but I have lots of friends and family who work in education, and I see how hard they work. And, you know, I'd see them come home and, you know, sit down on the couch for 5 minutes and then get back up, make dinner, you know, for the kids, and then get back out the door and go to a second job. And I don't see how it's reasonable, how we can ask someone to give it all for these kids who need so much, and then yet also, you know, to expect them to be able to live here, they have to, you know, get a second or third job and put in all this outside effort. And I think it's just disrespectful that we say, yes, you are someone whose skills and abilities we need and we want, but you know, we don't want to pay you enough to actually live here. I think it's frankly disrespectful and disgraceful.
Good evening, my name's Leanna Tuller. I live at 8 Dixon Street. I've lived in Somerville for nearly 17 years, and I have 2 children in Somerville Public Schools. Until this fall, I did not know how low the paraprofessional salaries were. And shame on me for not making it my business to know that, but shame on us if we do not do something to change that. One of the things I most value about living in Somerville is our city's inclusive and progressive values. I hope my children will learn these values through their time in Somerville Public Schools. And the value that we as a city place on people's contribution to their workplaces, and especially to our children, is enacted through their working conditions. And that's one reason why I'm asking you tonight to offer paraprofessionals a living wage starting at $25,000 per year and increase job security. I'm also here today because of our kids, one of whom is in kindergarten and who works with a loving, warm, and nurturing paraprofessional educator who's here tonight every day. It would be a detriment to my son and all of his 23 classmates if she were to be forced to leave her profession for one that paid her more or that could offer greater job security. I'm sure there are many demands on our city's budget, but I doubt it is a zero-sum game to raise salaries for paraprofessionals in our schools. Our city is going through a fairly prosperous period of time for some, but also a time of great inequality. The cost of living is very high. When people are paid a living wage, it improves their morale, their health, the service that they provide, they stay in their jobs longer, and all of these things stand to benefit the individuals who work in our schools, our children, and us as a society. So I ask you tonight to live our values as a beloved community that treats its members with dignity and justice. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jessica McMartin, and then Brendan Caffey, then Elizabeth Caffey or Coffey, and then Justin Reddington.
Hi, my name's Jessica McMartin. I live at 36 Bond Street, and I'm an 8th grade teacher at the East Somerville Community School. I absolutely love the school and the community that I work in, and I love the city of Somerville. And I know for a fact that my school would not run nearly as well, and particularly my younger student colleagues who teach younger students, their classes would not run nearly as productively and fairly and efficiently without paraprofessionals. And I think as a district that talks about equity in action, we need to walk the talk. We cannot be perpetuating systemic inequalities and paying these people who are so essential to our students' success such an abysmal salary. So please give them job security and pay them more. Thank you.
Brendan Caffrey, 71 Alpine Street. I'm a parent of a 5-year-old at the Brown School. I'm not an educator. I don't live with paras, though they sound clean, sounds lovely. I do have a 5-year-old, so I'm somewhat invested in this, but I would rather not be here tonight, if I'm honest. I'd rather be watching the College Football National Championship. But unfortunately, I can't do that. And that's really frustrating to me, because this should be, I shouldn't have to come to this. this should just be solved. This should be transparent to me, if I'm honest. It's kind of outrageous that it isn't. I've built successful software companies for my career, and what I've learned in that is the way you build a successful company is you invest in people. And I'm pretty convinced that's the same way you build successful schools. And I heard the chairperson say that they were going to mediation, and that showed a commitment to the process. I think what I'm not hearing in emails I've sent to school committee members, in emails I've received unsolicited from the school committee, is a commitment to process, but not a commitment to the people. And I'd like to see that from this school board, and I'd like to see that from, in these negotiations.
Elizabeth Caffrey, live at 71 Alpine. My husband and I are here tonight, and we're paying a babysitter so that we both can be here. We're paying that babysitter $20 an hour. And that's not atypical for this. We don't provide benefits beyond food, drinks, Wi-Fi, but my child has been sleeping for over an hour already, and we're paying $20 an hour. In our society, pay and salary is a proxy for value, and what we're telling our paras is we do not value what they're offering us. And personally, that is not true. I think we need to be showing them that we value them, we value what they provide for our children, which ultimately is for our city. I'm watching a multi-million-dollar, 4-bedroom, 4-unit condo go up next to my house, and my own tax assessment has gone up more than 13% this year. So if you want to talk percentages, I want that money to go towards their salaries. I support the paras. I've been lucky enough to see them in action and know that my child gets the support he needs day to day because of the quality paras and teachers in our classroom. Thank you.
We now have Justin Reddington, then Leonore Hillerstrom, Chris, I think it's Montero, and then it looks like Emily Hurd.
Hi, my name is Justin Reddington. I live at 44 Springfield Street. I am a teacher in North Reading, and I just want to say because of the union negotiations that the union that has gone through in that town, I'm able to live in Somerville. I'm able to buy a car to drive to North Reading every day. I'm able to afford medical care, and I've done a budget analysis on what the paraprofessionals in this town make, and I don't think I could own all three of those things on $20,000 a year. So I would like to ask you please to pay your paraprofessionals enough money so that they can take care of themselves. I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Hi, my name is Leonora Hillerstrom. I live at 22 Cameron Avenue. I have a 6-year-old in kindergarten at the West Somerville Neighborhood School. He has Down syndrome. We fought so hard for him to be in an inclusive setting. I'm so grateful that we were heard by the school committee and the special education department. He's in an inclusion pilot program there. He wouldn't be there without the paraprofessionals. There's in his classroom, there's not just a teacher and a general paraprofessional, general education paraprofessional, there's also a special education paraprofessional who is toilet training him, who helps him when he gets dysregulated, who greets him every morning and takes him to me every afternoon when I pick him up. I'm used to hearing about equity around special education and inclusion because of my son, and I'm here to stand in solidarity with the paraprofessionals who make his inclusion possible. I'm so grateful for everything you've done for my son, but let's support the people who allow him to be in Somerville. I am so proud to tell other parents with kids with Down syndrome who live in other districts how Somerville has risen to the occasion and given my son the education I think he needs. So I'm here for the paraprofessionals and hope that they will get a living wage. Thank you.
We now have Chris Montero, Emily Hurd, and then it looks like Rachel Ann Paul should go on together.
Hello, my name is Christopher Montero. I live at 61 Edgar Avenue. I'm a resident of Somerville and a teacher in Cambridge Public Schools. I come before you to ask a simple thing: do your job. The body before me has the awesome responsibility and power to determine what the system of education will look like in the city of Somerville. But it feels that you all have forgotten that, or that you have chosen others to speak for you, specifically a lawyer. You were not elected or hired because we expected you to be told what to do by a lawyer. And you were not elected because we thought that you could stand up to the elites that para-educators represent. You do not look bigger or stronger or wiser for denying a living wage to people who work more to educate the youth of this city than you do on a daily basis. And lucky for you, para-educators are not even demanding a true living wage. They are demanding $25,000 to start, which is still means that they would be living, and their families would be living in poverty and requiring public assistance like food stamps, housing subsidies, especially in a community like Somerville. My wife and I are both public school teachers making significantly more than para-educators you employ, and we cannot afford to live here much longer. Para-educators are also seeking professional status after 4 years, given after all that what they do is professional work, and many are as highly educated as myself as a classroom teacher, but you deny that also. To be clear, this professional status would not entitle them to a job, but rather release them from the purgatory of having to wait every summer for a letter notifying them that they once again can come back for poverty wages. It would release them from the fear and instability of not knowing that they could, or it would release them from the fear and instability of knowing they could be fired at any moment without cause. To deny workers these two basic demands and to call in a referee to mediate is not a shrewd negotiating tactic. It is not fiscally responsible. It can only be seen as cruel and misguided and an abdication of your responsibilities. It can only be seen as twisted and naive attempt to maintain leverage, power, the upper hand.
Your time is up.
And
Our
this from
next
a
speaker is
city
Emily
that
Hurd,
claims to be a
then
leader
Rachel and Paul
in the state and the
then
nation
Natalie Shapiro
on
and
issues
Michael
of compassion and humanity.
Stauber.
Hi, my name is Emily Hurd. I live at 21 Elm Street, and I teach at the Kennedy School in the SKIP program. For anybody in the room who is unfamiliar with that acronym, it stands for Specialized Kennedy Intensive Program. And as the name implies, we work with the students who have the most complex, the most intensive disabilities, some of the most vulnerable students in our district. And none of what we do would be possible without capable paraprofessionals. We ask a lot of our paras. It's not just passive supervision, it's not just making copies, it's implementing instructional plans, it's accurate data collection, it's responding appropriately to medical emergencies, to behavioral crises, to supporting inclusion in specialist classes when the special ed teachers aren't there. And that's all in addition to providing the support that our students need day in, day out to stay safe and clean and comfortable. Assistance with feeding and dressing and toileting. Transferring and positioning students with physical disabilities. And our students deserve all of that. They deserve that level of care and support. But the adults working with them also deserve to have all that hard work respected and reflected in their salaries. I can thank the fantastic para who works with me, Rebecca Brown, who spoke earlier. I can thank her every day, but those words of appreciation don't do anything to raise her paycheck. We teach kids who need 100% engagement from the adults around them 100% of the time. This is not a job you can do at 70% or 80%. And I don't know how we can ask people to be at 100% when they're having to work second and third jobs, not sure how they're gonna pay their rent. We're currently short-staffed in our program. There's an open position that we have not been able to fill. It impacts all students and all staff. It's frustrating, but it's understandable when paras aren't making a living wage. If we really value teaching all learners in district, not sending these kids to expensive out-of-district placements, we have to value and support the people who are supporting them too. Thank you.
I'm Rachel Shagnon. I live at 82 Benton Road. Paul is not up with me because he needed a good night's sleep before kindergarten, because otherwise his teacher and para would have an even more difficult day tomorrow. I grew up in Somerville. I've spent most of my life finding reasons to be proud of Somerville, and this time I am embarrassed. I am a teacher now in the Somerville Public Schools in addition to being an alumna, and I am delighted that on a teacher's salary, I can also be a Somerville Public Schools parent. I wish that is something that all of the paraprofessionals could have as an option. I wish they were being paid enough to be able to raise their families here like I was raised here and like I'm raising my children here. Please take care of the paras who take such good care of our children. I see it in my children's experience every day, the care that paraprofessionals in their school are giving constantly to the kindergartners and frequently to other students. I see it at Somerville High where I teach. Paraprofessionals work with many students who have a lot of needs, and if the paras were not there, everybody's days would go a whole lot worse.
We now have Natalie Shapiro and then Michael Tausper. I'm butchering that, sorry.
Hi, my name is Natalie Shapiro. I live at 10 Webster Street, and I'm an East Somerville parent. When my kid started the Somerville school system, she went to the ECIP program at the Capuano, which was fantastic, but her classroom cycled through 3 different paras in the time that she was there. People were leaving to have some shot at making a living wage. And I think that if you don't have adequate compensation and decent retention, it's not good for students who are trying to adjust to the classroom. It's not good for teachers, and it's just there's so much wealth in this city. I think it's wrong to pay our educators poverty wages. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Michael Tabar, who's close enough.
Thank you.
9 Monmouth Street in Somerville. I'm a parent of a kindergarten student at the Brown. I'm not here to scold or to shout or to tell you what to do, because that's your job. But I'm here to share a story with you that I shared with the committee already by letter, and I'm very thankful for you, those of you who replied, that emphasizes what paraprofessionals are to me, to my family. And I want to share the frustration of my fellows from the Brown that I left at home a pregnant wife with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old to be here. And I think I'm the last one to speak, so it's important enough. So the first day of school at the Benjamin Brown, my son was visibly stressed. And his teachers, both of which are here, and I don't know, paraprofessionals, it's a nice phrase. From my perspective, his teachers are here. So when the kids were lining up, this would have been the first time that my son would be going into a new environment without me accompanying him. He was stressed, he was looking for a way out, looking for a way to run, and out of nowhere came Mrs. Perry, his paraprofessional, and in the most humane and natural way just reached out her hand and took his hand, and he just dissolved into the classroom. This is unteachable. This was a human moment that chokes me up, and I'm a war veteran in my country of origin. I don't choke up easy. There is a national crisis regarding pay of educational staff. Increasingly, staff cannot afford to live where they educate, in the communities that they help forge. I don't want Mrs. Perry to commute for hours to get here. I don't want any of you to commute for hours. I want you part of our community. It's just unreasonable for them not to be. And I'll yield my time.
That concludes public speaking. We have a recess for 5 minutes.
Madam Chairperson, I'm sorry, we're recessing?
Okay. Let's speak. The mic is on. You can speak. I'm about to have a coughing fit. Emily, can you take the chair for a moment? I'm just going to excuse myself. I got it. Never mind. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling well. Can you give your name and your address, please?
My name is Daphne Balin. I live in 20 Sicilian Avenue in Revere, Massachusetts. I know Somerville very well, most of my life. My uncle was a Somerville resident. He was actually nominated a Somerville dad. He passed away, but he was a taxi driver around the neighborhood, so Somerville has been true to my heart. I lay down in bed at night as a single mother. My daughter, the values that I want to teach her are to be strong and not to expect less, because she is more. I lay at night every night and I wonder, am I teaching her by my actions to stay in a place that does not value me? I lay at night and I pray that she doesn't get sick, because I don't know if I'd be able to afford for her to be sick. I lay at night and I pray that I am healthy, because if something goes wrong with her, I don't know what will happen to her. I live with my parents. My father is retired, my mother is retired, and she has dementia. I pray that the water won't burst in the house, because I don't know if I could afford to make sure they are okay. Every day when I get up to go to work, I pray that my car starts, because I don't know if I can afford for issue with my vehicle. I've heard people say that we get kicked, we get hit, we get punched, but we get hugged by the very ones that do that to us every day. They're excited to come to school, even though the day before was hard for them. And that's because we greet them with a smile every day, and we tell them, you know what, yesterday was rough, but today is different. They're happy to see me because they value me. The question is, do you? It's about time. This has been happening for way too long. $25,000? I still can't live with that. I still have to consider getting another job with $25,000 a year. I still have to question, how am I going to pay for my daughter's college tuition when she is old enough to go to college? I deserve more. Your children in this district deserve more. They deserve respect, they deserve love, and that needs to show with how you treat the teachers that give it to them every single day. This is not okay. It's not right. And you cannot go to bed tonight. You cannot go to bed tonight thinking that you could let this continue to go wrong. Do what's right. Do your job. Do what you're elected for. It's about time. Do it for the children, because we work every day, because they are our future. And show them that they're important, and the people that value them do.
All right. We go on to the next item of business. Our next item of business is item 5, report of the superintendent. District report, superintendent.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
I'll just ask.
Could we have a 5-minute recess, actually?
Let's take a 5-minute recess. Sure. Okay, we are back in session, and it's item number 5, report of the superintendent.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. So there are a couple of different items on the agenda that I would like to address in my report. The first is the calendar. So this is the second time we are viewing the calendar, and happy to take any comments from school committee through Assistant Superintendent Mazza.
Are there, Ms. Krepchen, and then Ms. Phillips.
So I sent out the draft calendar to some of my constituents to get feedback, and someone pointed out to me in particular some of the Jewish holidays that are listed under important dates are not as important as some other holidays. So for example, Hanukkah is not traditionally a holiday that people would take off of school. So perhaps it isn't something we should be listing on here if it isn't something that teachers need to take into account in terms of field trips or other special projects.
Dr. Phillips, is that what you, okay.
Yeah, I had a question related to that, and I'm wondering if you could help me understand how we decide which holidays make it onto our calendar. That would help me frame my comment.
Superintendent, can you speak to that, please?
Through you, Madam Chair. So historically, it's a great question, Dr. Phillips, and I think I also sent this to Ms. Krepchen. So traditionally, what we've done as a process is to go two-pronged. One is to go through our SFLC, where there's a discussion around, since they know really the makeup of our family body, to sort of understand what would be considered our major holidays. There's then also a review of other district calendars. And as you'll see in other districts, some holidays are listed as major and the days given off, others are not. We have a policy that we always recognize, even if it's not given off, we will excuse students and staff. They just go through the process of human capital to do so. But this really reflects the embodiment of what SFLC is able to determine and collect, and our review of other calendars from around our area of districts that have similar representation. So it's a pretty lengthy process that they go through. They do it annually and they review it. But we're always open to suggestions to look. I think one of the big things was changing the format. I think this is a good format, finally, that we've arrived at, which is to make it clear down in the box that these, what we expect of our classrooms and our educators in observance to the major holidays. So we came, in terms of the policy of not giving any major assignments and so forth. I think also the blocking where you have in the block format to call out what's on the right side of the calendar. That's like another example of a format that we came up with. But we're always open, to any ideas relative to it. This is why we go over it several times with you.
Other questions, comments, thoughts? Dr. Phillips.
In light of that, can I just make a couple comments? One is on the Jewish holidays. Oh, sorry, forget it. I take that one back, but I'm wondering if we want to consider adding the Hindu holidays to this calendar. Even if it's not a huge portion of our population, I would think our emphasis on inclusivity might want us to respect anyone from those faiths who have kids in the public schools.
Superintendent?
Through Madam Chair, sorry, the button's a little finicky. I would just suggest if there are particular ones you want to offer to do it through Mr. Mazza or through Catherine, and then we can certainly see what we can add. We are a little limited in the format because it will only allow us so much on a single page, but I'm sure that we can do a little bit of reconfiguration if need be.
Are there any other comments? Mr. Green. So everyone's in new places, okay.
I'm not used to being here either. It's throwing me off entirely. But building off of that and building off of Ms. Krepchen's question, I know that we usually do this to the SFLC, but I think our experience these last few years having done this, which obviously marks an improvement over what we used to do, I think if nothing else shows that our communities in our district that are as engaged with SFLC as others. So perhaps, and it's probably too late to do for this year, but perhaps for next year we should just actually do a survey so we can get a sense of what holidays our students, and also in some cases holidays that may be more or less important even within religions.
Through Madam Chair, excellent idea. We can certainly undertake that for next year. Mr. Mazza, you've made note?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes.
Yes, Ms. Patel.
Thank you, Chair Norman, through you to the superintendent. I'm going to ask a really naive, probably stupid question. I apologize. There's a star about estimated in the block, and I'm not sure. I don't recall. I remember it from the past. I don't know what it's referencing in the top, and I can't find the asterisks anywhere. Maybe I'm just blind.
The star are special dates for seniors.
No, in the block on the bottom right-hand corner where it says star, asterisk estimated. And I know there's certain holidays that are estimated, but I don't see the holidays on here or anything flagged with an asterisk. Whenever there's an asterisk on the bottom, it usually references something else. It might be just a mistake or I'm missing it. I apologize.
Through you, Madam Chair, this was for particular holidays that might fall in a range or uncertainty of range of the dates. And so this year, it doesn't look as if there are any, which is why you don't see the asterisks.
Maybe it shouldn't be there.
Any other questions or comments about the calendar? This is the second time we've spoken about it, but this is the first time for some of our members. I know we are all starting to get requests for the new calendar to go out, but I would ask the body if we can hold off to the next meeting to vote on the calendar, but with the expectation that we would be voting on it at the next. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Mazza, did you want to say anything? Oh, fantastic. Superintendent Skipper.
Just one point of note for the public. There have been formal requests for the calendar. We like to wait until it is formally approved to distribute it so that if there's any changes, we're not redistributing.
Okay. So next meeting, which is in 2 weeks from tonight, we will be voting on it. 2020 school committee meeting schedule is...
Through you, Madam Chair, that is included in the packet. You will see it. It is in the draft form. So we've asked those of you that are the chair of a subcommittee to please review it, make sure the dates are accurate, give any changes to Catherine if any need to be. She's also provided it in color as well, as you will see, so both grid and block for those of you for your previewing. And so if you can just, if there's anything that needs to be corrected, just let Catherine know that.
And also, I would like to announce the committee chairs that have changed. So for 2020, Ms. Batone will be chairing the ed programs, Mr. Green will be chairing finance, and Ms. Ackman will be chairing rules. And I would ask that the 3 chairs of the subcommittees, to the best of your ability, to come to our next meeting with however well-developed your agenda is for the rest of the year, and share it with the rest of the body so that we can all start to get on the same page and see what's in the queue. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, also included, you will find just a single page.
I'm sorry, Ms. Patone, is this about the subcommittees? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Norman. I'm just going to comment. I expect that when, as Chair of Educational Programs, we may revisit the schedule because of changing of timing. We might extend some of these meetings. They might end up being on different days. So I'm just letting my colleagues know that we will discuss that in the first meeting, which is scheduled on Monday, the 27th.
And to be clear, it is the chair of the subcommittees who does the scheduling and the minutes for each of the subcommittees. So it is very much a draft form until it's confirmed with your subcommittee chair. Thank you for that point. Superintendent Skipper, the L Pathways.
Through you, Madam Chair, so included in the packets is a memo from the district administrator for ELL, Sarah Davila, as well as Emily Blitz, who is the ELL department chair at Somerville High School. This is just in response to information that the school committee asked for relative to where the goal program is. As you know, we began the goal program roughly 3 years ago in a very small pilot and have expanded it since then to include some 40 students who have gone from Somerville High. This was predominantly for our overaged English language learners who would come in around 18, 19 years old and realistically not be able to finish at Somerville High given their age. And also just the amount of family and life things that they have to deal with in addition to going to school. So what we did was to construct a pilot program, which we have now expanded, where we partner with Scale, which is our adult education, and enable the students in their first year at Somerville High School to get the basics around math, literacy with ESL, and the beginnings of science. They then build on that to be able to go over to scale in order to complete their requirements. And then they're able to get into the ADL program, ADP program rather, to be able to get their diploma if that's what they're choosing to do. This was really in response to what we saw was a stark dropout issue that had manifested at the high school with our overaged English language learners, where they made up somewhat of 90% of the dropout in a given year. And so in talking with the students and the staff, we were able to sort of identify that this was a program that we felt might better serve what is really young adults, being that they're 18, 19 years old. So this is just some of the, the information to make available to you. Ms. Davler is able to come in and give a full presentation if that's something you would like, or to do it through ed programs. But this really goes to show that at every point there's always a certain amount of students who are in transition at Somerville High. There are some that have already gone over to scale and are in the process of taking classes. And there are some that are accessing at this point early college, which we're really happy about, at Cambridge College, where we have 12 juniors who are actually begun classes there. We also have a deep partnership with a nonprofit called En Route. En Route was a Cambridge nonprofit for years, and they joined Somerville Public Schools 3 years ago. They're funded in part through the Biogen Foundation, but then also our operating budget. And they serve anywhere of about, at this year, 80 Somerville High School students. So we're very proud of the work that's going on and the programs and the menu that we've been able to develop. This is for for you to be able to look at, and then if there's further detail, I'm happy to have somebody come in to present.
Thank you for that report. Mr. Mazza, can you speak to the school improvement plan schedule?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. As you know, we changed up the school improvement plan process in the past. Principals and their teams would go in front of the Ed Program Subcommittee to present their school improvement plans. We changed that up so that half of the principals and their teams would present to the full body of the school committee, because we want them to know that their work is important, and I think it's a much better way to showcase what schools are doing, having been just coming out of the principalship. So we have 5 schools that will be going, and the other 5 schools that aren't presenting in front of the full body will submit a memo to their program subcommittee for review. So the schools that will be going on February 3rd, John F. Kennedy School. On the February 24th, Benjamin Brown and the Capuano Early Childhood Center. So there'll be 2 on that night. And then on the 9th of March, be West Somerville Neighborhood School and Next Wave Full Circle. So there'll be 5 that will go in a rotation this year that will present, like I said, in front of full school committee. And then next year, they will submit a memo, and the other group will present in front of the full school committee. So I wanted to let you know that those are coming up next month.
And will you be sending out that nifty memo in front of you to the school committee?
I will. Through you, Madam Chair, I will be sending it out tomorrow.
Thank you. Next item is, Superintendent.
Sorry, just a few more things on the district report. That's okay. So just as we move into the second half of the year, please for the public to take a look at our calendar, which is up on our school website, to also look at the school websites themselves, because they'll list a lot of the different types of celebrations of our student work and our student talent in terms of music, arts, and so forth. There's a beginner's instrumental concert which will take place on Thursday, January 16th. That will be at 6:30, starting in the Somerville High School auditorium. I also wanted just to give a big shout out to both Duhamel, who was here 2 school committees ago, the Duhamel Education Initiative, and the Medford Malden Elks. Both of these organizations have supported the Somerville Public Schools. The Duhamel Star is a new program which was designed not only to raise funds, but also to recognize educators in our district. And as you know, they've done a great deal around raising funds for dropout initiative prevention. In addition, you can find a lot of their information on the duhamelsomerville.org site. The Medford Malden Elks, they've donated multiple years now, dictionary to every 3rd grader in the district. And we really thank them, because this means so much to our 3rd graders. It's a wonderful gift, and they've been a long-term partner of ours. Also, to just make note, the Somerville High School CTE program each year participates in the Skills USA Fall Leadership Conference. Participants there receive intensive training and are able to demonstrate their mastery of Skills USA framework elements of personal, workplace, and technical skills. And they earn a Skills USA Massachusetts Leader Award as part of the process. Somerville High School was well represented at the fall conference in late November. They earned 4 gold medals, a silver, and a bronze. I always get the event by event, as CTE always sends it out on social media. So congratulations to many of our students, Alex Abano, Suki Hong, and Jack Donovan for their earned gold medal in community construction, Carl Benjamin for a gold medal in workplace safety, Kaisa Almeida for a gold medal in workplace skills, Minal Kauti and Gerard Gorman for silver medals in personal skills, Harrison Zarilla Romero for a gold medal in framework video challenge, Alyssa Kamara, Hiba Kotu, and Rajan Rote for a bronze medal in technical skills. So we really congratulate all of those young people from our CTE program. Reminder that our 8th grade students in the district and their families are invited to Somerville High School for the course planning night information sessions, which will take place on Thursday, January 30th. Students and families will have an opportunity to learn about the high school course selection process and to meet their student's future high school counselor. Interpretation will be provided. The event will be held in the auditorium on the Highland Ave campus. I also wanted to make a note that we have invited into the schools, and this began with a partnership at Somerville High, Good Samaritans. Good Samaritans does a lot of amazing work in the social emotional frame, particularly to help connect resources to young people and families who might really feel that they need more support. It was very well received by the Somerville High School students. They came in, they did assemblies with each of the grades. They distributed cards and information for what should happen if a young person at any hour really is feeling very vulnerable and needs extra support. The high school students gave us very good feedback that it was useful, so we've expanded it. It is now happening in 7th and 8th grades through assembly. And the nice part is that staff in those grades are also receiving training for what to look for signs of suicide or self-harm behavior. And I think this is really important because we know nationally that suicide rates are up. And I think, here we've invested so much in social emotional for our young people that this was just a natural extension. We will be going all the way down to the 5th and 6th grade in assemblies. That won't all happen this year because we have to plan for it, but it will, the 5th and 6th grade will definitely happen next year. It will happen in some of the schools where we're able to coordinate the schedule. But I just wanted you to know they're in our schools and we really appreciate their work. And then finally, just a reminder that Monday, January 20th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Our district offices and schools will be closed. We invite everyone to attend the annual MLK Day celebration, which will take place starting at 10 a.m. on Monday at the East Somerville Community School. This is a free family event that will include musical performances by El Sistema Somerville and the Somerville High School World Percussion Ensemble, which is amazing, as well as readings by students who have written essays. Following the program, the Beautiful Stuff Project will facilitate the creation of a community mosaic. This year, the Somerville Human Rights Commission will hold a benefit drive during the event to support Project Soup. Attendees are invited to bring toiletry items such as shampoo, toilet paper, toothpaste, soap, and other toiletry items to donate. So we hope that you're able to join us. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Okay. Fabulous. We will move on to item number 6, report of the subcommittees. School committee meeting for rules management. Ms. Palmer is not here, and I don't believe we have minutes from that meeting yet to be approved tonight. So we will move right on to school committee meeting for finance and facilities of December 16th. Mr. Green?
Yes, so my report for the finance and facilities December meeting. In attendance were myself, Ms. Krebschen and Ms. O'Sullivan. Also in attendance were Finance Director Gorski, Community Schools Director Parabello, Assistant Community Schools Director Gerke, School Committee Member-elect Phillips, and STA President Bridge. Our meeting confirmed at 6:04 p.m., convened at 6:04 p.m., sorry. The first item of business was our bill rolls and our expenditure reports. Of note, the payments to move the SPS policy manual to the MASC servers, which will make it searchable online for the first time ever, has been made, which is why the school committee budget line looks over budget. This expense should probably be coded elsewhere. That line generally covers our MASC dues and conference expenses. Ms. O'Sullivan moved and Ms. Cruption has seconded and motion to approve the bill rolls. And most of our meeting was spent discussing community schools. Community schools are seeing explosive growth in recent years. I actually encourage all members to read the PowerPoint presentation that is in our packets in December 2019. I will only be summarizing the highlights here. And it's particularly, community schools has expanded our number of subsidized students dramatically. Though at most schools, low-income students still may be underrepresented. In recent years, community schools has invested in language, special education, and early childhood services for our students. And community schools has also worked very hard on fulfilling school committee's mandate from 2 years ago to spend down more of their carryover funds. They now aim for a buffer of about $300,000 as opposed to close to $1 million they were carrying over 4 years ago. With this summary, we adjourned at 6:40 p.m. I move to accept the report for the December Finance Facility Subcommittee meeting.
There's a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Ms. Cruption. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The report is accepted.
I move to accept the December 2019 bill rolls.
There is a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Dr. Ackman. Is there any discussion on the bill rolls? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The bill rolls are accepted.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
It occurs to me that while the full committee approving the bills is normally a formality, I was amiss and probably should have explained what that actually is to our new members. So can I do that now?
That would be fantastic.
So one of the school committee's jobs is to approve on a monthly basis all of the various expenditures made by the district. This is called the bill rolls. If you ever want to see them for members, they are always in our packet for finance facility meetings. One of the things that we hope to do is to finally get those available just at will on our website. That is going to probably take an investment of some resources. But the finance committee reviews them as part of our monthly responsibilities every month and approves them. Then basically at a following school committee meeting, the school committee as a whole approves the finance committee's recommendation to approve the bill rolls. And that's what you just did. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions for Mr. Green on that process? And with that, we will move on to new business. We have moved the MCAS presentation again to a later date to accommodate tonight's agenda. The next item is Somerville Public Schools Policy Manual. And this is being presented this evening for the first reading, and it's file ECA Buildings and Ground Security. This would have come from Rules, and normally the chair of Rules who had been working on it would speak to it. Superintendent, can you speak to it?
Certainly,
please?
through you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
I mean, in many ways, this codifies what is the process that we use. I think in part, as you know, for all our building safety and security as part of our lockdown procedures, we coordinate heavily with Somerville Police and with the Somerville Fire Department as we do those. I think this also talks a little bit about the ability for us to make changes relative to things like electronic surveillance devices. These are, I think the question that came up at the last one was whether or not there was facial recognition. There is not. These are cameras. I mean, these are cameras that are mostly on the outside of the buildings for perimeter, and they're mostly used to, in the event that there's a break-in, as opposed to anything else. So there's no facial recognition technology that's part of this. We would adhere. The city has a broader facial recognition policy that would supersede anything we do. Occasionally we get a grant, like we received a grant for the Healy to be able to do the cameras in the building. And so that is something that we pursue as those opportunities come up. I think that Dr. Curley felt that he wanted to make sure that this was put forward through Rules to reflect what the practice was that is already happening.
And to speak to it procedurally, so.
And just one more thing,
Oh, I'm
there's
sorry.
a piece in here about the badges. So as you know, we've moved to electronic badges in the schools, which has been amazing. It results in doors not being propped, teachers being able to come and being able to come and go and so forth as they need to. So right now, these badges are controlled through the Human Resource Department. What that simply means is if a staff person leaves, it's deactivated. If a staff person is new, they get a badge. If a staff person loses their badge, we report it as stolen, and we reissue them a different badge. So that's new up until this past year. It was really only the Easton Near Genziano that had that. Currently, all of our schools have one entrance that has the key card, but the plan is to be able to expand that into buildings where there's a natural second egress that makes sense to have staff be able to come in. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. So for our newer members, the way that policy gets developed, if there's an issue that gets brought up in this, it can come in many different ways. Often at the full body, it'll get recommended to rules. Rules will work on it and vote out a policy. So what you're seeing tonight has already been vetted by 3 members of the school committee and brought to the full body, and then we would then again. Typically, there's 2 readings. Tonight is the first reading. It gives people time to, if they want to talk to constituents or get feedback, but also to have a little more information to ponder before they come back for and we typically vote on policies at the second reading. Mr. Green.
So, acknowledging that this is actually the first reading, I still have an issue with the last sentence of the 3rd paragraph. And as much as I hope Ms. Skipper is our superintendent for quite some time to come, she will not always be our superintendent. And I am leery of a policy that gives the superintendent such a blank check without even acknowledging a school committee review or approval. So I will be, and I'm not quite sure how I'll be amending it, but I expect I'll be submitting an amendment at our next meeting to add a sentence calling for some oversight over that power.
Superintendent Skipper, would you like to
Through you, Madam Chair, I
comment?
mean, one way I understand and you're right, when I'm 90, I won't be I won't be a superintendent here, but I do think what might make sense would be, some of our policies, I think it would be good to put in there that they need to be reviewed annually, right? And so that might be a very good solution to this, that annually the school committee is notified as to any changes relative to security surveillance. Something like that.
That was along my thinking, yes.
Any other questions, comments about policy ECA, file ECA? Ms. Baton.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate Mr. Green's suggestion, and I look forward to his amendment. In general, I have a question, I guess, about the next level below this. There's been some questions in the past about who has access to the videos, where are they stored. I don't think it necessarily belongs in this policy, but I really would like to know if we have anything documented and what it is about those videos and the digital copies of those videos in terms of privacy. So I would appreciate some feedback on that in writing, possibly. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Green?
To Ms. Patone's point, I think my amendment can probably just call for a submitted security surveillance plan submitted to the school committee every year that answers questions like that.
That's great. Okay. Would that, Ms. Batone, get to some of what you're concerned about too?
As long as we're getting communicated about, how it's
Okay.
getting managed. Again,
Okay.
we don't own that part of it. That's more of your practice and not our policy, but we want to know because parents are not surprisingly concerned about this. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving on to field trips, and can I get a motion?
I move to approve the March 13th through 15th field trip by the Somerville Boys and Girls Indoor Track Teams to Armory Track in New York City.
Second.
There is a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by...
I'm sorry, I should also have added, I also move to approve the May 7th through 9th trip by the Somerville High School Boys and Girls Spring Track Teams to White Plains High School in New York.
Thank you for including all of those track events. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any all those opposed? Go Highlanders. The track team continues to be amazing and continues to advance. And as a sport that many don't pick up until high school, it is remarkable how they develop the students' talents. Yes, Mr. Green.
We're still doing new business, right?
There's acceptance of donations.
But we are still doing new business because I do have an item of new business.
Yes, can you hold off until
Yep.
we get through the acceptance? Okay. Acceptance of donations?
I move to accept with gratitude a monetary donation from Beverly Schwartz of Somerville, Massachusetts of $28,000 for special education reading programs.
There is a motion by Dr. Ackman, seconded by Ms. Krepchin. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you for that donation. Any other items of new business? Mr. Green.
I'm going to bend the rules here, but I'm going to push it. As the primary author of our district's public comment policy, it was never my intention to have it as a way of excluding comment. In fact, as a note of history, it was the policy as written was amended from the MASC draft versions, which called for public comment being open to either citizens or voters. I can't remember exactly where the word was.
Citizens, I think. Residents.
Residents, yeah.
No, the draft policy we got from MASC said citizens. We moved to make it residents to be more inclusive.
Right.
It was also, as the policy does call for it to be reviewed periodically. I think we are due for a periodic update. And I would actually be moving to amend the policy to strike the language limiting it to Somerville residents.
Wouldn't it, I would think it should go back to rules for consideration. Yes, Ms. Patone?
I was going to request that it went back to rules for consideration. Maybe I'm wrong, but my memory is we actually had this conversation in either whether, I don't apologize, I don't remember I was in rules at that time or in this body, and we had a dialogue about this, and we explicitly decided to make it residents only. I'm not saying it should be residents continuing moving forward. I think it's worth relooking at, and I appreciate that you're bringing it up, but I just, in my memory, I want to make that correction that we did have that conversation and a decision was made to make it residents. Thank you.
My recollection is we passed the policy and then the questions was raised and we sent it back to rules and it was reaffirmed to keep it as residents, which keeps it in line also with the public hearing policy. But I am happy to request the chair of rules to consider it. Dr. Ackman.
Thank you. To further expand on my understanding of it was sent back and it was to rules and it was thoroughly reviewed, and to best of my understanding, the explicit logic was that it is the union that is the voice of its members and employees, and they are paid to speak on behalf and to speak on behalf of their employees. And we are put in here by our constituents and by residents. And there was a robust discussion, and that was where it was landed on within definitely the past 6 months, if not more recently than that.
Can I ask you, as the new chair of rules, to go through the record of that and to give us a chronology at our next meeting?
Why, yes.
Thank you. Were there other questions or about? Okay. Are there any other items of new business? Ms. Patel.
I will try to make this brief because of this hour. I had a request for the, I don't know if this belongs in new business, but I had a request from the superintendent for some feedback on the response to the CPAC letter that came out in November of 2019. I also would like to have that included. I don't know if every school committee member got it, or if maybe it could be included in a future packet.
I don't think they did.
Because I'm bringing it up, so if I'm asking for the response, I really think it should be made public, that letter. I attended the CPAC meeting last week, and I can actually defer and talk next meeting about what I heard in the meeting, and I'd like to share that, but in the interest of time, I would like to defer that till next meeting.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Patone, if we were to include that letter in the packet for the next meeting, but could you forward some of the questions ahead to the superintendent so she can be prepared to speak
I would be happy to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Through Madam Chair. My understanding is that Director Trevisoni has been in dialogue with CPAC, I think to gain some clarity on a few of the requests. My recollection of the letter is that there were some questions that are our typical requests that we normally do annually as part of the CPAC meeting, the joint meeting. But I think Christine wanted to talk with the leadership to understand a little bit better on a couple of the requests. So I will absolutely dialogue with her, and we can get you both a written request, and if you want, we could also invite Ms. Trevisoni to come and be able to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Does that address your concerns?
Yeah, I leave it through you to the superintendent to make your judgment on whether or not you want to bring in Ms. Trevisoni, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Ms. Santiago, I will make sure you have a copy of the letter, so we'll put it in the packet so that everyone can come to the next meeting on the same page. Fantastic. Any other items of new business? Any items from board members? Ms. Patone.
Yeah, just two quick items. I've received a couple of interesting emails from constituents that I would like to forward through the superintendent to all the school committee members, particularly about athletics. One of them, I'm just going to summarize really briefly. One of them was talking about equity issues regarding sports jackets. I don't know if they're called Letterman jackets these days, but that some students receive jackets for playing into certain sports and they're paid for. Is my understanding. I haven't researched this, so this is something I'm going to send your way. And that there's a strong feeling from some of the students. This came through an adult, but representing a student, that it feels inequitable and it feels poor and poorly. And my understanding is some of that is funded through booster clubs. And there are some school committees that do decide within their policy to, whether it's in their policy or in their finance, because we've had some conversations about budgeting, to try to address that. And it's not the implication that anybody doesn't want students to have fabulous things, but trying to figure out how can we do that in an equitable manner is complicated. So that's one of them. The other one, I received a letter from a student that was really well written. It turns out the student was an ELL student that's part of a high school program, and a high school class where they all put out something to a representative. And their topic was, specifically they were asking for study hall specific for athletes and not to have athletes take PE. I might not say that, I don't know what the exact answer to that is, but basically their story was that they're very concerned that some people don't participate in student athletics because they don't have time, and that participating in student athletics really can hurt their academic experience, so they make the choice not to. And so the solution that they suggested was this study hall, but we have brought up in the past the idea of whether or not, if a student is participating on a team after school, and whether or not we can consider that instruction, because I know that's part of it, is it instruction, and would we be willing to consider giving those students a waiver from PE classes? So it was a letter. It was hitting a topic that I was interested in. I don't know if that has to go to ed programs or rules or whatever, but I just wanted to put that out there as an item of interest.
Superintendent.
Through Madam Chair, and this is something that Assistant Superintendent Mazza will look into. There are regulations about what we can and can't count. That's actually a strong private school model, where if you play on a team at a certain level, because of the amount of hours of practice, it can count for your PE. In the public sector, it's a little bit different because we're under the state regulations for PE for the high school. That said, I think it's worth looking at the letter, and I think given the new program of study at the high school, it's worth asking the question, is there at least some that could be counted? We've been able to look at yoga and dance and other kinds of things that are non-traditional PE as ways of meeting that. So it could be, it could be possible to have some of it be met. And I appreciate the question. It's a really creative one. So I'd love to take a look at the letter.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Going back to the Booster Club and equity, I cannot remember if it was, there was some discussion of us looking at fundraising, and this booster question would come under that. And I can't remember if it was at finance or at rules. Mr. Green.
The topic has come up at finance. It is on my agenda for looking at this year as in finance. So this conversation we will be having, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. My guess is, so are you looking to do the research and get some handle on what is what's currently happening? With the idea that there might be policy developed from that? Okay.
Hope, yes, to get our hands around exactly what is being raised in the school revolving accounts and by PTAs, et cetera.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking that on, because there is a wide variety of opportunities in that way. Okay, any other items from, I have a quick item from this, which is the Somerville, I got a very lovely thank you note from the Somerville Scholarship Foundation, thanking the school board for the contribution in honor of Leo DeSimone. And if anyone wants to see it, I can see it, but I think it was more true to who Leo was than sending flowers. It was to support the students he cared so much about. So thank you for that. With that, are there condolences, Dr. Ackman?
The city of Somerville would like to extend its deepest condolences to the families of Keith O'Donnell, husband of Denise O'Donnell, paraprofessional at Kennedy; Francis LaRusso, past English teacher at Western Junior High School; Ann Tuccelli, wife of retired West principal Steve Tuccelli; Joanne Puera, mother-in-law to Laura Puera, the library media specialist at the Brown School.
We are adjourned.